Good evening, good evening, good evening, Relationship Flow family. How y'all doing this evening? I have had a hectic week. However, I'm here and I hope that you guys are ready for an interesting conversation as well as whatever the free flow conversation will be. So, Carissa is running a little bit behind, but she will be joining us. And I didn't I wanted to just still keep it open flowing, conversations about relationships, whatever aspect of how things are, reaching out to you. And again, this space is to provide you support. Like, what is difficult for you in your relationship at this time? So, for those of you who are new to me, my name is Mary May from Butterfly Love, and I am a relationship therapist and as well as a strong advocate around balance in our relationships and families. So, um, if you do not give StreamYard permission to post your name, then it comes up as Facebook user. So I see someone giving me a shout out that says, "Hey, love." And so I'm going to say, "Hey, love," right on back to you. And hope that this Friday evening you are well. So one of the things I wanted to ask is, what is in your cup? It's Friday. It's sip and chat. What's in your cup? What's in my cup? It's probably PG-13. It's probably PGG rated, just because I have been running all day long. It's just some nice lemon tea. So the question I would start off with is, how has your relationships been during COVID? And usually don't say COVID, I usually say C virus. So how have your relationships been going? Has there been any changes in your friendships, in your significant otherships, your situationships? Um, how are you doing? Hey, Roxanne, you got water? You know what? I got water too, in case my tea runs out, because it has sugar in it, so it's not going to necessarily hydrate me. So water is always great. So hey, Roxanne, thanks for joining in. Um, so how have your relationships been treating you? Like, are they the same? What's your thoughts about the where it is that you work? Have you been working? Um, you know, what's different about the way, looking 4 months ago how work was to how it is now? So how are things flowing for you? Um, yeah, just want to, kind of think of that. I know for me, I was thinking that work was going to totally pause, but it did a little bit, and then it didn't. So because people are in houses, they're like doing, or in their apartments, their living space, they're doing a lot of personal reflection. And in the personal reflection, is causing them to kind of activate being responsible around things that they couldn't pay attention to when they were in the daily hustle and bustle. So it's bringing them to a therapeutic space where they are, seeking out counseling. And the counseling is around a lot of different things. So it's teens with anxiety, or young adults, I should say, with anxiety. It is relationship issues, again, anxiety, but having difficulty talking to your partner and feeling comfortable and safe. Um, so it's like those type of things. Some stuff I've gotten messages where people like, okay, we getting separated, we getting divorced. I'm like, okay, wait, we was doing some great work. But when you have to spend that quality time with people like at 1 million hours per week, it changes things. So whoever said, hey lady, hey, how you doing? It's Friday night, what's in your cup? um so I guess I'll talk about anxiety for a little bit, because we don't realize how things manifest in our energy. And when we don't realize that, it shows up in the most weirdest and oddest places. So when you think about, I'm going to use actually a recent situation that came across my desk or my space of work, um, that an individual was experiencing like anxiety, and that's what brought them into counseling. And that was a part of what brought them into counseling. What really brought them in is that they are now 25, 26 years old. And at the age of 12, they had something happen to them that just wasn't what they were, wasn't what they were expecting. It was a best friend that sexually took advantage of them. And that stain, they kept that secret, that thoughts about it and everything like that. And they didn't really realize how it was really, impacting them and how it had manifested. However, what they did realize is that not being in their regular schedule and routine during the C virus, that they had been very organized, very structured, very distant from reconnecting with people as far as a friendship or any sort like that. Um, if people, they didn't put themselves in situations where they would be disappointed, or that they would be, that they felt that people will fall short to an expectation. So they tended to work independent, because the manifestation, the languaging, created a space that they felt like, okay, they weren't protected before, and I don't want to allow somebody to not protect me again. And so, without even thinking that the way that they were operating in spaces now was connected to that, when you begin to like peel back the layers and talk about it, you begin to see, okay, this is really impacting me. So that was like a probably a really, really something you can relate to, but a really broad thing. But if we think about like this racism and like the riots and the unrest and the social justice type things, it's the same type of manifestations. I was just having a phone call with a colleague and kind of going through the steps on how people try to dismiss what it is that are people's narratives and how they feel about certain things. And in doing that, it's like you dismiss who I am. You don't want to acknowledge what has been done, what your role of it was. It's almost like telling me that my thoughts and my patterns is not real, which of course, in the behavioral health world, we have a name for that. We call it gaslighting, where you're trying to tell me what my experience is not my experience. And, that could be harmful, because you're like, okay, I need validation. I need to understand. I need you to help me, kind of heal from whatever has happened to me. And I'm giving two broad different situations, but when you have experienced something that you don't even know, and you're constantly putting layer upon layer to kind of protect yourself, when you get too tired of all of those layers and all of those things that you're doing, it's like, okay, what am I doing? Like, am I really showing up as myself, or am I showing up as a representative and not really being authentic to my best space, or the best thing that I could be to not only myself, but to everybody that I'm a significant other to? So if I'm a parent, if I'm a spouse, if I'm a partner, to my parents, like as far as your parents and the generation above you. So it's like all of these different things play a part, and people become indirectly impacted by the manifestation of your anxiety. And it's like, we don't have to label every experience and everything that we do, but it is real, and it does happen directly as well as indirectly. So just want to see what your thoughts are. What are you guys dealing with in this time of evolving and change and so forth like that? How are you managing? So that was, in thinking of creating this space as being a space for you, wanted to just give you the opportunity to, have somewhere that you could just kind of kick back, chat, relax, see things in a different way, and go from there. So what's on your mind as I grab something to drink? And I know that there's a delay. In the comments and in the things that people say. Then I had another question I had posted earlier today too, about I'm like scrolling to it so I can see. Oh no, that wasn't it. Okay, so no, I didn't post this question. The question is, do you think that when you partner with somebody for a significant relationship, that your birth order matters? So, like, if you are the firstborn, are you able to date another person who is the firstborn in their family, or do you find yourself being more compatible with someone who is like the middle child or the younger child? That's the question I want to ask. Like, what do you think that how do you think that the dynamic actually works? Um, I was actually reading something and preparing for this lovely social construct of a licensure exam, and in reading it, it was talking about how I'm reading the comment. I'm beginning to really work in taking care of me. I really do that during normal times. And now I'm making my quiet time, my prayer time for me. Totally like the best thing that, people begin to learn and recenter and kind of acknowledge like what the true values of life, can be. Because having that, and I'm just going to go to the comment, I'm going to come back to what I was saying. Having that time to just, be with yourself and no interruptions, not having to apologize for, whatever the space, may be, is so important because you get to organize your thoughts. It gets to be peaceful. You don't have too many challenges in regards to how it is that you manage day to day. And you're actually nicer to people around you, and you can drink water and have like iced tea like me, as opposed to needing something stronger just so it could be like the tamer of your mood and your stability, like in conversations. So I want to go back to the article that I was talking about, or the stuff that I was reading, that it was saying that an older child would need or would be a better fit in dating a middle child or even possibly a younger child as far as in birth order, that is more compatibility than if they were two firstborn children working together, because then the each can live their role um naturally without having a lot of conflict. So if it is two younger children or two older children or even two middle children for that matter, you begin to have the competing agendas and not even realizing how you're operating in your birth order responsibility. And in your birth order responsibility, you have certain things that you just kind of have always done innately. And so if you have two, say, alpha personality individuals, at a certain point, it's going to bring a conflict that you're going to need to come to a relationship therapist to try to figure that out. And of course, there's ways to create balance around personalities, meeting each other in this particular way. However, it can be difficult, like when you matchmaking. And I'm not saying that, if you are a single person and you're out there dating, that you need to go and find, to be asking people what their birth order is before you continue the conversation. But it is something to kind of really take into consideration. And if you should choose to deal with somebody that has the same birth order as you, then just have that honest conversation, because no matter what literature, social constructs, religious practices, spirituality kind of suggests to us, we have to kind of make it work for ourselves and kind of make it work for what's going to be the best fit for our own relationships and our own strategies and working with others. So it looks like Carissa is joining us. Hey,
Hey guys,
Carissa.
hi. Sorry for my late appearance. I had something come up like out of the blue. I had to take care of it, so I'm all done. I'm good now.
So what's in
What
your
do
cup?
we?
You gotta tell us what's in your cup.
Water.
You like, I barely got to the couch with the computer. You
Exactly.
talking about what's in my cup?
Yes, water. I didn't even get a chance to pour anything, and
Well,
that water has been on the table since I left.
oh my goodness. So that's something really just popped up, and you was like, okay, I gotta go.
Yes. Yes.
So I had asked the question. I see Roxanne has just responded. I'm gonna read that in a second, but let me catch Carissa up. I had shared about this reading I had done that suggests that if you are the oldest child, when you are dating somebody or selecting a partner, you should not necessarily select a first order born partner, that you should
Really?
probably do a middle person or someone younger than you, because then you won't have that innate competing agenda in regards to like what you have been designed, to kind of just order or organize or be responsible for, or not be responsible, because sometimes people say the younger children are not responsible. um so that's where the last comment is coming from. Okay, so she said, funny, Wink and I are both somewhat middle children. We are both the older gender of 5 siblings. So I gave 4 brothers and he had 4 sisters. Okay, so there we go with that gender stuff. Um, as a result, we value each other's gender. I value men because of all men in my life and how my father instilled values in brothers. Okay, okay. So it's working out for you guys as middle children, but are there any alpha firstborn people? What do you think about that, Dr. Carissa?
I have actually never heard that,
I know.
but it kind of makes sense.
It does.
It kind of makes sense. If you have someone who's the oldest child and you dating someone who's the oldest child, I can see how there would be some competing interests.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I
And it's not
mean,
to say that they couldn't work them through. They can come to either somebody like you or I, to kind of work out that balance and how the two leaders can create compromise and understand where the compromise is so challenging from. But yeah, like somebody else was saying, yeah, I never thought about first order and dating. And like I said, I'm studying for this social construct exam, and it's in the readings and preparing like theories and so forth around understanding that. And I'm like, okay,
and I see it even more so with middle children because we all know that they have their own set of issues.
listen. And even our issues, their narrative is just like they gonna disrupt whatever is happening, and it's like either and this is being in general speaking, but like either you gonna follow what rules that they're disrupting or dismantling, or just leave them alone because they could really just work on their own independently because y'all have moved around them anyway, you know.
Hmm.
And again, that's in the general.
We often talk about the middle child syndrome.
We do.
They're usually looking for attention because they're
Hmm.
often ignored.
Hmm.
So if you're with someone else that has the same issues, it's gonna be kind of difficult.
Right.
You know?
Unless you guys have a way that you share attention equally and that you have mutual guidelines, that not guidelines, but like just mutual ways that you guys communicate, that you've able to establish what works well for you, because you weren't able to get the older child or the younger child to comply to it. So it's like, let me find this in my partner because y'all tripping otherwise. So other than the birth order, which I think that we could probably go on for that for a while, I had mentioned anxiety and how anxiety manifests, and how I had a client come to me that's like 25, 26, but they are very organized, very structured, very calculated, trying to protect themselves always from various situations, and not realizing that because of being violated at the age of 12, that they had never talked about it. They just started talking about it within the last couple of weeks. That some of this is that they didn't feel protected at the age of 12.
Mhm.
And so they kept distance and created space between them and people in general. And that's how, anxiety and the overthinking process kind of manifests. And then I was talking about racism and the unjust in the world, and people gaslighting, saying that your experience is not your experience.
Mhm.
So those are the two things I got on in that the quick 15 minutes while you were running around in the streets. And so we can go back to either one or pop up something else new.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the subject of anxiety. Um, I think a lot of people are experiencing anxiety for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm getting. It's because of all of this stuff that's going on right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's
And maybe not experiencing it for the first time. I mean, there are some first time anxiety But then there's some people who have been able to dismiss it because their lives were just so busy that they didn't realize that the reason it was so busy, when you peel back the layers, was to kind of avoid whatever they were hiding in their busyness,
Hmm.
or covering, not necessarily hiding it, but covering.
True. True. Yeah. But it's maybe about 80% of the clients I see
Hmm.
have anxiety.
Hmm.
Yeah. It can be tough on a relationship.
Yeah, how so, Carissa?
Thank you, Mary, for putting me on the spot.
I mean, you
But
said it. It's like, okay.
but for one thing, people with anxiety feel the need to control their environment
Hmm.
because controlling their environment keeps their anxiety down. And
Right.
oftentimes it's hard for partners to understand that.
Or why they're like avoiding
All right, you froze up, Mary.
what is happening. um, they try to avoid some of the things that just naturally, exist. But it's like, okay, how can I how can I just live? How can I just be? Why do I have to confront these things right now?
Well, the confronting is going to help you reduce your anxiety eventually.
Right.
Probably not at the beginning, but eventually.
Right.
You won't have that fear. I mean, anxiety is a future oriented disorder,
Mhm.
and it makes you think that the future is going to be dangerous and
Mhm.
scary,
Mhm.
and that you won't be able to handle what happens. I mean, that's just the nature of the disorder.
And then sometimes the reason you think that you're not going to be able to handle it is because there's been some messaging, some person that you trust in your life that has told you that you won't be able to survive or be a better person on the other side. So it's like you end up avoiding even trying to process or be better because you really believe that what they said is accurate and true.
Exactly. And sometimes the avoidance, or oh my
Oh,
god,
look at
really,
that.
cat, my cat, he just has to be seen. But sometimes the avoidance or whatever you're doing to quote unquote prevent your anxiety seems
Mhm.
to be working. So of course
Seeing.
you're resistant to making any kind of changes. It's
Mhm.
like the person who clicks the light switch 3 times to prevent their child from dying. Every time they do it, the child don't die. So why
Right.
should I stop?
Right. Or they say if you step on a crack, you're gonna crack your mama's
Break
back.
your mother back.
Showing my age, I know, or our age, I know, but it is what it is. We probably all know what that is. Oh shoot, what the cat just do? Your eyes.
He just jumped from one couch to the other and missed. He
Okay.
usually makes it, but he missed.
Listen, cats are interesting.
Oh gosh. But yeah, I mean, it could, if you don't talk to your partner or you don't have a partner that understands when you try to talk to them, it could
Hmm.
actually make your anxiety worse.
Hmm. Because it's like you're constantly it's like you constantly really put yourself in a position to always be exhausted, because not only are you trying to be present for whatever is happening in that moment, you're also trying to keep the shield on to avoid what you don't want people to see.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah,
lot of work.
it's a lot of work.
It's like
But
we
what
executive
happens?
officers of our own, of our own mind. Even if we
Yes.
do work for somebody, we're still the executive CEO of how it is that we operate in outside spaces. But we're doing so much to keep the package together that we're not always doing a great job in doing so.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. And if you have so many fears around, letting that guard down,
Hmm.
then like you said, it's always exhausting because you have nowhere to be you.
Right, right, right. Which is kind of a part of, why saying, oh, not the ouch. Again, we can't see whose name that is because you StreamYard requests your permission to use your name so that we can address you by name. But yeah, um, what's the ouch part? Yeah, can you expound upon that? Like, what do you mean when you say ouch? Because we said a couple things that could have been an ouch. A couple things. So, I think the anxiety really is a mask in a lot of ways too. And it's the kissing cousin to depression. I always call the diagnosis that work hand in hand as kissing cousins. And not that we are trying to diagnose anybody in this chat, but we're just, using it as an example. But, depression shows up in so many different ways. Um, in so many different ways that it causes you to just overthink and think that it's, personal reflection. Like you need to do something so dramatically different when you're like, no, I'm comfortable and just chilling, like laying right here on the couch and doing nothing. Or you want me to write out goals. Goals for what? Nothing is going to change. Like you become so apathetic and so in a space where you just don't think that anything positive can change or positive can be. And you direct that path, of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
the tricky part.
Yeah.
Not really
Yeah.
tricky. It's just, do you feel empowered and supported enough in your life that you can push yourself through, knowing that the other side you're going to heal.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Somebody
wondering,
said you're talking a lot of truth. I
ah,
wonder if that's the ouch.
yeah, yeah, could be, could be. Um, I'm trying to think of other anxiety situations that I've dealt with during the last couple months. I do have a person who works security at one of the main hospitals here in Philadelphia. And when everything began to unravel, is the word I'll use, um, they began to realize that they needed to not wear the uniform out in the street, that they needed to wear whatever street clothes that they could, um, and when they got into the workplace, to then change and put on their uniform
Mm-hmm.
because they would be a target otherwise in navigating, getting to their car, driving in their car. If they were, unfortunately, this person is a man of African American descent who wears locks. So he gets, targeted so often. And he was like, and wearing the uniform, if I was to get pulled over, it makes the situation even more magnified than just being a black man who represents with locks.
Mm. Wow.
And so, yeah, his uniform stays in the bag, in the trunk, not in the back seat, because you don't want nobody to pull you over and you got a bag in the back of your back seat. Because then you got this whole narrative that you got to prepare for and making sure that they feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
So
we're
is this has caused him to have more anxiety?
more anxiety in the fact of just traveling to and from work. And when in work, where the establishment that he works at, there's a lot of threats that come from the outside community to his post.
Oh wow.
And so it's like it's just multiple layers upon multiple layers of, how can he protect his energy, and then it's impacting his level of intimacy with his partner, because when he comes home he's carrying all of this energy and doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
how to like release it and let it go. So that's what we're working through.
Okay.
It's
Good.
not happening at this place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hmm.
Loaded,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see that. I see that often as well. How anxiety really affects your sex life.
Girl, let's talk about it. It really does in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um Oh, sorry, text messages coming through.
Okay.
um, yeah. So when it comes to intimacy, if your partner say has asked you to do something spicy, I'm gonna say it's spicy, something that hasn't been of the norm, then you begin to overthink and wonder where did that thought come from, and trying to navigate if you really want to consent to it could be very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Intimacy is a loaded one when it comes to anxiety. If you think you have performance challenges and trying to navigate what you believe your performance is, and then what your partner tells you it is, can be two different things. So then you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly trying to think of ways to correct the situation or avoid
Mm-hmm.
intimacy, because if I just avoid it altogether, then I don't have to worry about how you think, because you're not getting it from me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it also plays into, when you have unrealistic expectations,
Hmm.
you know, and when you idolize
Hmm.
situations and they don't happen the way that you think they, and I'm gonna throw this word out, should, because we
Hmm.
know shoulds are a big problem.
Right.
They have a lot to do with anxiety and they have a lot to do with depression.
And
You know.
disappointment, which manifests into both of those, because you
Mm-hmm.
end up setting yourself up for this one standard, but you don't have the capability to meet that standard. So that not only do you self sabotage and disappoint yourself, you disappoint whoever you was preparing for.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, we went deep tonight. Especially, I mean, because the intimacy is important, especially when you spend a lot of time in the house together. It definitely is important.
Yeah, I've been hearing that it's been a struggle for a lot of people.
A
You know,
struggle
because you're in the house, so much that if you have a difference in your levels,
all
it's really magnified right now.
mm-hmm.
You
You said
know,
that's so politically correct.
that's what I've been hearing.
That's what you've been hearing.
That's what I've been hearing. Because you know, you might not recognize it on in a regular situation.
Hmm.
You go to work every day, you're taking care of the kids. You might not, get a chance to do it, but you can blame it on being busy
Hmm. Or
or
tired,
tired. Yeah.
or the
But if
dishes.
you done sat home all day, you can't tell somebody you was too busy and too tired.
Right. Because what was you doing? You was scrolling social media
Right. Yeah. How you tired?
or looking at Law and Order for the 25th time.
Right. So how you tired? You didn't do anything all day.
Mm-mm-mm.
And then your partner coming at you 4 or 5 times a week instead of the two. And you like, oh, wait a minute.
Like, can I rest? Can I live?
So yeah, this situation has brought out some problems for people.
Hmm. I think too, it causes couples to renegotiate what an expectation is in regards to sexual intimacy.
If they're communicating.
If they're well, then there's the other reason why they would come to a conversation like this, or actual full blown therapy, because
Mhm.
communication shows up in so many different ways. Like, it shows up in intimacy, shows up in finances, it shows up in throwing stuff around the house or punching walls. Like, it just shows up. And you think it showed up out the blue, and it never shows up out the blue. Like, it's usually something that was the catalyst for it, and it's like, okay, well, now I'm at my wits end all the way at the top.
Mhm. Yeah, it's usually I've said this 10 times and you haven't heard me once. Or you said you heard me, but you're still doing the same thing.
Right, right. You got the eye blinking. Like I said it. Why you not understanding me? So then what would be some suggestions on how to help that to break that communication barrier?
Hey, I think that sometimes you have to treat your relationship the way you would treat any other important interaction with somebody.
Mm,
I think sometimes we forget that and we are so quick to dismiss, we're quick to not really set real time aside to talk. We're
mm-hmm.
so quick to try to throw something in there on the fly when you're running out the door.
Or
You
sarcastic
wouldn't do that
behavior.
at work,
Right.
you know? You would set up a meeting time where you're not going to be preoccupied with something else and you're going to have your
Mm-hmm.
agenda and you're going to stay on
Mm-hmm.
subject and talk about the issue.
Right. Right. Hopefully.
Hopefully. But I think that a lot of times, like I said, couples don't think about it that way. It's like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to talk about this while we watching TV.
Or look at a TV show that's bringing up the communication issue and use that as an example, which could be therapeutic if you do it in the right way. But if you pointing a finger and blaming people, then yeah,
Mm-hmm,
that's not.
mm-hmm,
It's not the time that when you're trying to be vulnerable and like really resolve conflict. Like you need to stay in the present moment versus pulling all these reasons on why you can continue to sabotage because then you keep yourself stuck, in that
mm-hmm.
same pattern, and you're gonna keep repeating the same pattern over and over again. I always like to use the traffic light as an example. Like if you stuck at the red light. And if you choose to like navigate, you in the caution, like you like caution, but I'm gonna navigate and ask these questions and try to be vulnerable. And then sometimes you don't hear what you want to hear, so then you go back to the red light. Whereas the person has feel like they said what they needed to say, they had the green light and left you way behind and moved on to the next issue of what we need to manage and manifest in our home and in our relationship. And you still stuck at, well, why did you say I didn't look right in that dress? Or, like you stuck on something so, men are on the surface. That's what I always hear in my other podcast. That men are surface thinkers. So it's like they don't really think about it going any further.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like we talked about it, it's over. And a woman is usually in her head still processing, rethinking, reordering, just so much stuff.
Yes. Somebody said it is difficult to have both parties in that vulnerable place at the same time.
It
So
is.
true. So
It is.
true.
And it's
Yes.
you don't want to schedule it because then scheduling it creates that anxiety that we talked about.
Mhm.
Like, okay, I need to talk to you at 8 o'clock, and you tell them at 12 o'clock. Well, then I'm not coming home at 8 o'clock. I'm gonna find something else to do so that I could avoid that 8 o'clock time, and I'm not gonna come until 9:30, quarter to 10, because
Mhm.
hopefully you are either so mad or so tired that we won't have whatever the conversation is, and it's like that avoidance. Avoidance is a part of anxiety. Like
But
you,
go ahead. I
no,
was gonna say
go ahead.
that that happens if every time you tell your partner I need to talk to you, it's
Mm-hmm.
always something bad.
True.
Then you start to associate I need
Anticipate.
to talk with you with something negative.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if
Definitely.
yeah, and you can prepare your partner and say tonight I want to talk about our finances.
But if I'm a gambler, then I don't want to talk about finances because that means you can really restrict me on my permissions. Or if I'm a shopper and I'm always hiding bags in the car until you're not home and then bringing them in, then, like, I don't really want you to come into my house that way. Like, I don't want you to come into my personal space, which is not, again, if you're talking about finances, we could be talking about gambling or your shoe addiction or your
Mhm.
shopping addiction, but we don't have to really come at the person's neck with this what we're
Right.
talking about. You could talk about the
Right.
finances without, saying those things like directly.
Hmm. Yeah, for
You're like, okay,
sure.
what are our goals? What are we trying to do in the next month, in the next 6 months? what are some things that are impacting this or making it difficult for us to reach this goal? It might be the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through every morning. It might not be the shopping or the gambling addiction. Something so drastic and big.
Right, right.
Because Dunkin' Donuts, you can spend $100 a month going through the drive-through.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
if you make it at home, you spend less than half.
Hmm.
So
But
those
the
are
thing
things.
you want to make sure is that the conversations is constructive, and you're not tearing each other down, and you
Hmm.
are being vulnerable, because that's the only way you're going to build those deeper bonds.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
and for the men on here, being vulnerable doesn't mean you're a punk.
And yeah, or that
Doesn't
you.
right. Doesn't mean you're weak.
Yeah. No, it means that you care and that you want to be present for your partner in whatever way that you are capable of. But then it also causes both partners to say what they're capable of doing. And then if there's some things that was listed out on a list that you made or in a conversation that you made that is not being addressed or nobody's taking it off the plate, then you guys build together. If you need to go to a financial class together to learn, and because everybody's going to hear it differently, then
Right.
we register for a financial class. If you need to learn how to communicate, let's invest in so many sessions with a clinician and work through those type of things.
Hmm.
Sexual stuff, like it's things that you can put in place that you guys can have that conversation together. Together. So I don't know. That sheesh comes up in a lot of ways.
Hmm. It does. It
Because
does.
even when you don't talk about it, most of the time when you say the word cheating, people think of like a sexual indiscretion. But cheating can really be staying at work like late more nights out the week than it is coming home, or that
Right.
you are spending more time on the computer. It's not that you are physically sexually active with somebody, but you're cheating your partner out of time of your attention and spending quality time with you. So it's like
Hmm.
that's the cheating part. Like you didn't love me enough to include me in something, or for us to communicate about something. So it's like, okay, how can we be better at activating positive interactions and positive communication and build together?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I often hear in talking about cheating in
Mhm.
couples, the man will say, I didn't have sex with that person. I didn't cheat.
Mhm. It was just a DM.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. But there is, there's emotional cheating.
Yes.
Uh,
And if you feel that there's a void and you feel that void outside of your relationship, no matter what it is, it's cheating because you're not being authentically honest with your partner for them to know how to better support you or be connected with you, or what your needs are. Like, okay, I'm about to go through a really rough patch where work is about to have me on this project. It's going to cause me to stay at work later because I need to meet this particular deadline. That's different than work schedule just changed and now you're automatically there. Work becomes the indirect target. Like you really mad at work schedule, but you're really not mad at work schedule. You mad because you didn't communicate that there was going to be a change.
right, right. And how and
And how does it impact the entire family? Like if I picked up the kids on certain days, or I did grocery shopping, or I cooked dinner for us on certain days. If something changes, like you're supposed to talk about that,
Mhm.
not just let it happen and continue to
Right.
happen.
And really going back to connecting this with anxiety, when those uncertainties pop up and your partner is not sure what's going on with you and
Mhm.
they have anxiety,
Mhm.
this creates a problem. It
Mhm.
actually makes your partner more anxious.
Mhm.
and you're like, why are you tripping? It's it's just a late night at work. But
Right.
if you understand the nature of anxiety, your partner is feeling like, their world might feel like their world is crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my partner doesn't want to come home to me. I don't know what
Right.
they're doing. They're avoiding me. And, all kinds of scenarios, which I'm sure you hear,
Yes.
start coming into play. And
Right.
even though you might not be doing anything, the fact that you're not communicating is the real issue, and is what's causing the anxiety in your partner.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, because, and then people will say, well, I'm not doing it, but because you keep saying I'm doing it, you must be pushing me to do it, trying to justify, the decision to do something otherwise. And it's like, no, just let's talk. That's all I'm asking you to do is let's talk. Let's spend time together. Let's, rearrange expectations in the home, because apparently our work life has changed. So we need to, kind of look at that. And of course, we thinking of life before being quarantined, but it's
Yeah.
still even might even with quarantine, because if you are a person that worked outside and now you have to work inside when you're on Zoom calls, like don't talk to me if I'm on Zoom calls. And you might be like, well, you always got the computer in front of your face. Because these are my work hours. Like, you remember I used to go out somewhere and these are my work hours. So to justify me still getting paid, these are the things that I need to do. So, it's just, being mindful.
Yes, yes, yes. And the partner that has anxiety has to also make sure that they communicate.
Mm-hmm.
They have to say, you know, this is making me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Can we figure out how, you could get what you need and I can get what I need?
Mm-hmm.
That's a conversation.
It's a conversation. Imagine that. Like, we could just talk about it. And don't yell, don't scream, don't use no erratic type, tones of voice. Just, and if it gets too emotional, figure out a code word. We gotta come back to it. You say the code word, we gotta come back to this when we not as triggered and charged up. Because I need to understand what you just said or what you just did that made me react and respond that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. That definitely keeps the conversation from going off the rails.
Hmm. Hmm. And it also takes personal reflection. Like, okay, where could I be a better communicator? Where can I be better with finances? Where can I be better and being available, intimate wise, or, just managing my time with all the things that I'm responsible for? And
Mm-hmm.
considering someone's emotional connection to you as something that you're responsible for. You're not 100% responsible, but you do contribute to that process.
That's a good point.
Hmm.
That's a good point.
Disruptors, they could just disrupt the whole situation, come in the room, flip the table upside down, then you have a whole different conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It looks like we have April, Roxanne, and Janelle rocking it out with us. Janelle
Okay.
Berger.
Thanks, ladies.
Yeah,
Yes, thanks for joining us.
I cheated.
Yeah. You
I looked,
cheated.
yeah, I went to the group on my phone so I could see who the Facebook users are.
Oh, okay,
Anxiety wasn't allowing me to just accept it as it was. Like, I needed to know.
okay.
But yes, we definitely appreciate you joining us for our Friday night sip and chat, and want to bring conversations that you guys want to hear and connect with.
Mhm. Yes, we want to be helpful. We don't want to be just, listening to ourselves talk. We
Right.
do that enough in our
We do.
in our everyday lives.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we definitely want to be helpful and answer questions that you have, or
Mhm.
hear some of the things that you're going through.
Definitely. Even if you want to direct message us, if you catch this on the replay and, it's something that you want us to kind of address, just let us know. Because, as you may know, one of us or both of us, because one of the people on there knows both of us. um, actually, two people on there knows both of us. Um,
Okay.
you may have things that you just want to talk about, but not really out yourself in the comments.
Okay.
Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
send us a direct message because we, as you guys know, pretty much the type of work that we do, but then
Mhm.
also you see the energy on the page. Like we're not ratchet, you
Mhm.
know. We try to, just keep everything informational but fun and lighthearted, but then supportive. So that's like our mission and purpose for
Mhm.
group relationship flow, but our relationship to everything.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah.
And last week you guys talked about having retreats, right? Didn't they bring up retreats? I was supposed to bring that to the thing to show you.
Mm. Someone brought that up, I believe, about retreats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when the world opens back up, that would be wonderful.
How about that? How about that? Because having a social distancing retreat would be, I don't know. I had to sleep on that one. Like, what would that look like? We
Mhm.
gotta stand 6 feet
I know,
apart.
right? Right.
It's possible, but
Hmm.
who
I
knows?
mean, maybe at some point we could do like a Zoom where people can actually come in, and actually have conversation.
Mm-hmm. Could do that.
Yeah.
Could definitely do that.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, anything else you think we should touch base on?
No, I mean, I actually like, talking about anxiety and how it affects relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I actually like that conversation because it's it can be really debilitating for people that
Yeah,
have anxiety, and
it
it's
really.
it's very important that their partners kind of be really supportive to try to help them when that thinking starts,
Mm-hmm.
those patterns where everything is bad, because it doesn't go away by hearing, you know just don't think like that, you'll be all right, things are
Right.
going to be okay.
And in a sense, that's like dismissing the fact that you are having a true and valuable experience and or reaction to something that you're asking the people to be sensitive to.
Hmm. Yeah.
I was thinking
So
about
just
one of the questions we asked. I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
I was thinking about one of the things I had posted about earlier today in the group was, have any of our relationship changed since the C virus or whatever? And it makes me think about a relationship that was very dear to me. We didn't agree in the beginning of what quarantine looked like, and
Mm.
the only way to kind of resolve it, at least what was stated, was to have a face-to-face conversation. But because the work that I do or the advocacy that I do, it still had me kind of out and about. They didn't feel safe, and I totally get that. But
Mm-hmm.
the outcome of it was, it's like we're no longer speaking,
Mm.
and it's like, oh wow, okay, wow,
Mm.
you know. So it wasn't something else hit me today that made me even think to even put that in the group thing, but it just made me think about, like, I wonder how many relationships have altered. I mean, that was a close friend, but some significant others, some other situations, things just happen.
Mm-hmm.
Things just happen.
Yeah. I think that'll be a good conversation to have with the group. Yeah.
Yeah,
How has things changed for you since the
since the second week
virus?
of March.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
learning that we are in captivity, so to speak, until February 2021.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So people who are already tired of the people they live with, they got to figure it out.
Right.
Got to figure it out and find a way to live peacefully.
Or do a virtual tour of another place to live. In the meanwhile, hey Jen,
Yes.
thanks for joining us. I'm cheating Jen because on the thing it says Facebook user to us on this side, but I'm in the group so I can see who the names are.
Okay. Hey, Jen.
um, yeah, so like yeah, the whole anxiety thing in life, like it just really manifests in so many different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, the just the things that have changed during the virus, but then how has intimacy actually changed?
Mm-hmm.
That's Jen again.
Yeah. Hey, Jen. Yeah, I mean, some people are wearing masks
Hmm.
for
As we can
intimacy.
tell with the racial shenanigans, people who we thought was in the same conversation with us or in the same understanding of what racism looks like or what being African American in this world looks like. And now you see, even though there are your connections in social media or even in the workspace, you see the mask that they were wearing all the time or how they felt about you.
I actually meant literally. People are wearing masks for intimacy.
I don't agree with that. I think that is just doing way entirely too much.
I
And
have
it's
a
funny that
couple.
Jen is on here because I believe it was a post that she and I both commented on that people were really overthinking the process that for intimacy with somebody that you live in the same space with, that you're gonna sit there and physically wear a mask. Like really? Yeah, no.
I mean, I have a couple where one of the couple has anxiety, and the partner
They
works
looking at
outside
too
of the
much news.
home. The
I'm
partner works
sorry.
outside of the home, so that's the compromise they came to in order to be intimate.
So
Now
the
the
compromise
partner,
could have been that when I come in the house, I just shed everything at the door, put it in a bag until we do laundry, and then like kind of move differently. Like I go take a shower before we even interact. Then that way, you know that my body has been cleansed from outside. I'm gonna be in the house and gotta wear a mask. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Yes, people are dealing with anxiety through aggression for sure. And the
mhm,
word control just triggers people too. But
yes,
anxiety is trying to control your environment and trying to control,
yes,
like what's happening around you.
exactly, because that's what makes you feel safe,
And so,
and feeling safe makes you feel better.
hmm which is and it's like what is really safe, because have you been violated so many times in life that the word safe becomes so arbitrary that you don't know what it looks like?
That's possible.
Just saying.
Hmm. It's possible.
Hmm.
You know, but and I'll say this. You know, it can be very arbitrary and it can be individualized.
Hmm.
But the thing is, you have to communicate with the people around you what safe means to you.
Exactly. Because even the aggression says a lot because aggression can be passive, it could be direct, it could be physical, it could be emotional. And like in all of those different aspects, you have to like that's masking something. I'm going with masking in the emotional sense.
Okay.
I'm wearing a
Okay.
mask here. So, it's like it's just really it's so many layers to every single thing because each person has their different experience with control, how they deal with aggression. Um, like one of my triggers would be, which is so ironic to the work I do, would be somebody yelling. If I'm in my personal space and I have like you're my personal like friend or whatever, and yelling occurs, I'm a different person, or I probably have checked out the conversation altogether. However, in my work, I'm dealing with people who yelling all the darn time, either as a therapist or if I'm in a school. That doesn't
Mhm.
trigger me, but in my personal connection. It's like I'm yelling. I'm checking out. So it's like you got to know what your level of aggression that you can tolerate, as well as like what the triggers are, because then you have a different way to kind of look at it. Okay, you have to know what safe means to you. Yeah, definitely. But then sometimes you get so much in that tunnel of trying to be safe that you end up blocking other people from even coming into your space to help you or provide that sanity and that peace that you're looking for. So yeah, again, anxiety drives through all of this stuff.
Yes.
If we was doing a
Yeah.
series, we could probably do anxiety like for the duration.
For sure. For
For
sure.
sure.
Somebody said right.
Right. So what else do we want to chat with in the last or a couple minutes or whatever?
We got a
What you
quiet
think?
group tonight.
I know. Last week we was popping.
Yes, yes.
So, is there any closing thoughts that you guys want us to talk about before we wrap up this week? Sip and chat with relationship flow. Next week, I promise to have something in my cup that I won't let my day to
Me
be so
too.
crazy. Yes.
Me too. I have something good in my cup.
Last week you had your tea, and I know how much you love tea, but
Yes, yes.
it made me think of Get Out when you were stirring the cup. I was like, okay, as long as the spoon don't hit the sides, I'm gonna be okay. But otherwise, I might have to say, can you stop stirring your tea?
Thank you. Whoever said great job, have a great weekend. Thank you.
Yeah,
You have
thank
a good
you.
weekend too.
You too. You guys be safe, and
Yes.
I guess we will join you all on Friday at
Mhm.
8 p.m. And again, if you have any topics that you would like us to touch on and deal with, if we're gonna come back to the losing control or the being resistant to any form of control that Jen has added in the comments, we could definitely do that too. So
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
yeah. So thank
All
you.
right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we will see you all next Friday.
Next Friday. Thanks for rocking with us. Go
I think I'm
refill
gonna
your
wear
cup
some
and have
makeup.
a great weekend.
I think I'm gonna wear some makeup next
All right,
Friday.
so we got other people to your hair.
All right, guys.